Well, good afternoon. So the title of this talk is Going Agile with Atlassian, or as I prefer to think of it, herding cats for fun and profit. Because if you are going to get into this kind of transformation, you are going to be cat herding, okay? It's going to be a challenge, and it's going to take a lot of energy out of you. In thinking about this and how I want to organize this, the first thing I want to talk about is principles and patterns. I think that kind of a set piece process isn't going to work real well for anybody. And if you read the Agile Manifesto, if you read the writings of people around Lean, etc., what it is you have to be adaptive. And so what I want to give you are some principles, some patterns that can help you tackle this transformation in your own company, in your own team, wherever you're doing it. I was in an earlier talk, and we had in that talk, we had a person who's in a large enterprise that's going agile, that's never been there before, and then we had another person asking a question that was two guys just getting started and wanting to get started right. Hopefully, the collection of principles, the collection of patterns I'm going to give you will help you no matter where you are on that spectrum. Before we start talking about how, before we get into that, the most important question you need to ask yourself is why. And actually, I'm asking that question of you. Why do you want to go agile? Is it because all the cool kids are doing it? Bad reason. Is it because your company will get more releases out in less time? Another bad reason. The core reason why we want to do Agile, and again, let's go back to the Agile Manifesto. We want to deliver usable value to our customers. That's what this whole game is about. Usable value to our customers. And too often in Scrum Master certifications and following our Scrum guidelines and everything, we forget that that's what it's about. It's about delivering usable value to our customers. So before you kind of get into the how, always frame the why. What does that mean for your enterprise? What does it mean for your enterprise to deliver usable value to your customers? For me, it means that our weekly deployment goes out without a hitch within the window that we have, and that we don't have to roll back, and that there's some new functionality there for our customers or some improvement in the world for them. For you, it may be different. Figure out what that is, because it's going to inform a lot of decisions that you're going to make downstream. So that's the key. Why before how, okay? The next principle, the next pattern I want to leave you with is that it's about the people. Every team, every organization is just a collection of people working towards a common goal. If we put in place tooling, if we put in place process, if we have ways of doing this, it has to be because it serves the people. It makes the people more effective in reaching that end goal, the why. That's key. And you need to really make sure that you keep that in forefront in your mind, that it's about the people. It's not about a reporting structure. It's not about the tooling. It's not about all the cool things we can do with Jira. Sorry, Nick. There are lots of cool things we can do with Jira. It's about the people and making them more effective in reaching that delivery of value to your customer. That's really key, and you need to take that away and really make that part of you. The speaker before me talked about agile transformations and how they flounder, how they break up, and forgetting this point is key. I have done this myself. I have forgotten that it was about the people, and got enamored about, look at what I can do with the whiz-bang Jira workflow. Look at how we can have code, commits tied into Jira issues. Isn't this great? And I didn't think about, how did that make those people more effective? How did that help them do their job? So think about that. Really focus on that. Next is, it's about keeping it simple. The Agile Manifesto says simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. So you want to figure out how can you make things as simple as possible do as little as possible. Make it easy as possible for people to do their jobs and to be effective. Let's use an example. Developers, what is the thing that developers want to do? What is their prime target, where they're moving towards at all times? Well, they're writing code, but they could write code all day and nobody would see it and they would not be real happy, would they? They want to commit that code, they want to show it to people, they want to get it out there. So that is like a key linchpin in the developer workflow. If you can make things happen off of their code commits, then you're going to be on the right path. They do not want to go into the Jira Web UI, as nice as it is becoming, and resolve issues. They want to write code, they want to commit it to Git or Bitbucket, they want to see it push down the build pipeline, and they want to see how it's doing. That's what they want to do. So what's key there is you need to figure out that simplicity and make things as simple as possible. A lot of us look at Jira, we look at the power that it has, and we go, gosh, look at all the things I could track. Look at all the things I could capture. Forget it. Okay? I'm going to talk to you about the ideal Jira workflow at the end of this presentation. Okay? And I don't like fog bugs from Joel Spolsky. Joel's a great guy. I love reading him. But Joel does have one thing right. He's like, you're going to have these fields and only these fields available to you. Now, I disagree with him about a number of things about those are the right fields or anything, but he is in the right direction. Okay? As a Scrum Master, a project manager, an engineering director, whatever your title is, you've got to remember that the process is not about you. Our previous speaker talked about the change from a work for relationship to a work with relationship. And this is key. You're here, your job is to make these people as successful as possible. Your job is to remove impediments from them, not throw things in their way. And any data that you can glean from the tools and things that you do that help you do your job, that's just a side benefit of making these people more successful, making them more efficient in what they're doing. Okay? Any questions at this point? Okay? So, and I kind of talked about this under simplicity to a little bit, but the important thing is making sure that the team is aligned and they're pulling in the same direction, that the things you're asking the team to do help go towards their goals. Product managers, what do they want to do? They want to get features out to their customers so that they're happy. Your developers, they want to get the stuff out there so that they can show it to their friends and get their kudos for the cool stuff they did. Management wants to get it out there so that they can drive new revenue opportunities. So make sure that everything that you're doing, everything you put in place, tooling, processes, etc., are aligned to that goal of delivering customer value. And I could just probably make it just as valuable for you to just stand up here all day and just say, aligned to delivering customer value. That's the key thing. Finally, human beings are just too damn valuable to spend their time on anything that can be automated. And the fact is if you want a job done correctly, in a repeated fashion, over and over again, you need to automate it. I'm going to ask a question. What degree of your release pipeline is automated? And I'm going to start at 0%, and I'm going to go through to 100%, and I want to see a show of hands. 0%. Did I see one hand back there? It went down real quickly. I think the person was embarrassed. 10%. 20%. 30? 40? 50? This is pretty good. 60? 70%? 80? Really, Nick? Okay, 90? 100%. Wow. Award to this gentleman here. Get him to be a speaker next year, Nick. I want to hear about that pipeline. So, on average, we were at 50% or below. That was our median, okay? So, we've got some room to grow, some places to go. Human beings are really, really poor at doing repetitive tasks. They're really, really poor at doing things that require you to do things in a particular sequence at a particular timing. It's just a fact of life. And this is why in World War II, checklists were invented, because the pilots were dying in incredible numbers because they couldn't keep straight which order to turn the switches on the planes as they were teaching them how to fly, as the planes got more complex. This is why we've developed the checklist culture. You know what? Software, if you capture it, is really good at doing that stuff. And we see this drive to automation happening all over. You've heard about the DevOps movement, which really has at its focus making sure that you have an infrastructure that can be repeatably deployed. Infrastructure as code. And tools like Chef and Puppet, they're all tied into this. So you need to be looking at where you can automate and how you can automate. And if you want that job done right, then automate it, and automate the hell out of it. That's half of the equation. The other half is human beings are just too damn valuable. You know, would you rather have someone run a set of tests that can be done in an automated fashion, or do a half day of exploratory testing? Well, I know the answer to that for me. But too often we forget that that's the trade-off we're making. We're not willing to make those investments for the future. We're not willing to establish a virtuous feedback loop that's going to get us more and more time going up. And that's what we really need to focus on. And if you don't have the skills to automate yourself, start gaining them right now. Go and learn a scripting language. Pick up Python. Pick up Ruby. Start learning it. Automate a simple job for yourself. You know, it's not that hard. Anybody who can write an SAT exam, essay, can write Ruby code if they spend 40 hours doing it. It may not be the best Ruby code. It may not pass code review with the developers in your shop, but you can do it. So a lot of times I get asked by people, because I'll say, hey, if you're going to give me the choice about the tools, here's the tools I want. They're Atlassian. And so why Atlassian? Now I may be preaching to a little bit to the choir here. So I'm going to talk about my reasons. But I think you need to have an ability to answer this question when someone asks you. When you say, I want to go and buy that Jira license and implement it, or I want to upgrade it, or I'd like to add Bonfire to it, you need to be able to articulate why you want to do that. So with apologies to Winston Churchill, Atlassian has the worst possible tool set in the world, except for all the others. Let's not fool ourselves. It's got warts. It's got problems. I can recite them. I have been in so many product manager meetings with folks from Atlassian and telling them about it. But there's nothing else as good out there. I believe the speaker to us spoke of the best wrong answer. Was that what you said? I thought he was here. The best wrong answer, So it is the worst possible set, but all the others are worse. What I love about Atlassian tools is they are adaptable. I can adapt them to the needs of the team I want. If my team doesn't like critical blocker minor and wants P0 through P5, I can make that happen pretty damn quickly for them. Okay? If they want to have resolved implemented rather than fixed, I can give them that relatively quickly. The tools are open in the sense that both there's a community around them that's very healthy, a very powerful community, as well as that there is the source, if you're a licensee, is open to you. You can go and you can see exactly how things are implemented and what's going on. And God help you if you have to and there's a bug and you've reported it and it's not getting fixed, you can fix it. I've done that, okay, and deployed my own build. It's extensible, so you can extend it into the areas where you need to go and how you need to go and what you need to do. The plugins, the plugin ecosystem is incredible. The decision to make plugins a capability of Atlassian products from day one was great. The embracing of REST APIs over the last 5 years across the Atlassian products has just been awesome. And these are all good things that make your life easier and let you go back and automate things and build automated workflows. And we should applaud them for that, and we should keep doing them. But a few words of caution when you think about the Atlassian products and what they can do and the power they have. Don't depend on new Atlassian features. Something that's mentioned here, something that's mentioned in a blog post, something that's in Jira and says it's going to be in the next release. It is never just around the corner. I sat for 18 months waiting just around the corner for Git support in fisheye, okay? And I kept telling developers, it's coming real soon. And I was a beta user. I got it. I got the beta usage. So do not assume that it's going to be there when you need it unless it's already been delivered. Also, if you are going to extend, if you are going to enhance the product, just tell yourself it's never a simple change. Never look at someone and say, oh, it's a simple change. I can just do that in a few minutes. It isn't. My first change to Jira was to take the mail handler and make it so that it wouldn't blow up if the email that was sent to Jira didn't have a subject line. Okay? So to get to the point where I could do that and make that change and make it in a way that I felt was robust took about 2 days. Okay? Now, it was real simple when I finally got down to it, but getting the SDK set up, getting everything working, testing it, making sure that it works, took 2 days. By the way, that issue is still there in the email handler, so make sure that either you make that change yourself, use an alternative mail handler, or make sure that people always have subject lines in their emails. So just, it's never going to be easy, so just be sure that you take that to heart and you know what you're getting into when you go in and you modify things, okay? So let's get into the nitty-gritty about driving this process forward and making sure that we're on track. So first off, you need to understand kind of the rules of engagement you have, the kind of place you're working in. So what kind of site are you dealing with? Are you in what I call a greenfield? Nobody's done anything. It's wide open. You can do it. You're a startup. You're just starting to automate things here. You're replacing Excel as the bug tracking system, whatever it is. Or are you in an urban infill where you're going to have to get zoning variances and the permits to allow you to rip things down and to do it? Different segments, different ways to approach it. In that greenfield, you can be incredibly more aggressive on what you tackle and what you shoot to take over. In that urban infill, you got to be much more careful that you don't disturb the neighbors and they don't shut you down and make you file an environmental impact report. So really think about that and calibrate how you're going to tackle it. Your aggressiveness should be an analog scale from greenfield to urban infill, with it being all out aggressive if it's greenfield to I'm going to be really cautious about how I tackle this if it's an urban infill, okay? Now, if you do get that greenfield opportunity, when you think about it, make sure you're making good choices because you are going to live with them, that company is going to live with them, that team is going to live with them for a long time. Those choices don't go away. Next, you need to think about what is your methodology. And if these are all buzzwords to you, then take some time to understand the different methodologies that are out there. What you will find is that a lot of companies have mixed and matched. And if you don't actually understand kind of the pure strains and how they work, you're going to have some issues about how things go. So, are you guys adapting Scrum? Are you looking at Kanban? Are you using Scrumban, which is that mix? Are you using XP? You're going to need to understand that and understand the implications through to the developers. That means you need to kind of read the primary texts on these things, understand them, read people's experiences with them, and get a feel for what is this going to mean in your world with your team and with your people. Finally, what is your product? Are you doing a software as service or a platform as service? Or is this a shrink wrap app that you're going to ship out to people? Is this consumer is focused? Consumers are much, much more forgiving than enterprise customers. As our friends at Atlassian will tell us, they do something that messes up, we scream bloody murder. On Facebook, if somebody has a problem getting their update for 10 minutes, it's not a big deal, okay? It needs to be fixed. They will fix it. Facebook deploys like 15 times a day, so it will happen. Are you dealing with an embedded system? If you're going to actually put things into hardware and then manufacture that and ship it out, you've got to have a much higher bar than if you're like me as a SaaS, where I can push a new deployment in a short amount of time. So when you hear about like a continuous deployment pipeline, you need to understand what are the constraints that are on it. Embedded systems are never going to have a continuous deployment pipeline. Would you like that rolling update of your car OS while you're driving? I don't think so. Or your pacemaker? Are you in a regulated environment? I've worked in a regulated environment. I worked for a medical device company for about 2 years, director of quality and process engineering, and the level of documentation, the level of traceability that we needed to have, because people's lives were on the line, was incredible. And so there's going to be a much higher bar. It's going to be much more difficult. All of these methodologies, all of these approaches can be adapted, but you've got to understand the environment in which you're working. So next I want to talk a little bit about process patterns, tying to, as you kind of understand the environment in which you're working in. So I actually abhor processes. I like to talk about workflows. I like to talk about approaches, but I like to embrace patterns. And this goes back to the Gang of Four and their book on design patterns. Think about the process patterns and what are the patterns you're going to embrace. So if you're talking about an agile methodology, agile at its heart is about a couple of things, agile/lean. First off is that you're embracing that software is an empirical process. That it is a process that is not something that you can put on a blueprint and just duplicate again and again. That you need to adapt to the environment. And when it's an empirical process, you need to have feedback loops. This is why you have stand-ups. This is why you have short sprints. You need to have high value, low latency, high frequency feedback going on all the time. You also, in lean, your job is to eliminate waste. What is waste? Waste is anything that doesn't go back to that why, okay? Anything that's not aligned with getting the product out to the customer and delivering it to them is waste. In that thing, if I have a 2-hour weekly status meeting about the project, that is waste, okay? That doesn't contribute to getting the product out. That just keeps us aligned, but it doesn't get the product out. Really is, you want to get it down to writing the code and getting the code out to test it and delivered to the customer. One process pattern I really urge you to embrace, and I talked about it earlier, is keep it simple. How many of you have heard of the lean startup? Have heard about the idea of the minimally viable product? Okay, I'd like to propose that you embrace something called the minimally viable process. Strip things down to the absolute minimum you can to get things done. And then only after that, only very carefully, after you've talked to people and confirmed that they really want it, add something into that process. So really think about that and what you're going to have. And I'm going to paint a picture for you of a minimally viable process for a startup. This minimally viable process requires 3 things, 3 products from Atlassian. Jira, Fisheye/Crucible, I consider that one product, or should I be going to Stash now, Nick? And Bonfire, okay? Those 3 things tied together. So first off, in Jira, we're going to have minimal issues. Those of us who are process wonks, who want to measure things, we start proliferating issues, you know, like rabbits have babies, okay? We have different issue types very soon. Scope it down. I believe that you can do what you need to do with a story, a bug, and a technical task, which is a subtask. Story, bug, technical task. You don't need tasks, you don't need epics, you don't need improvements, you don't need features. Again, constrain it down to that. Get it down to that minimal there. Minimal workflow. What is required to get a product out to your customer? Well, first, there's the state of things being open. We've logged this issue. We've opened this story. It's there. It's open. The next step is somebody is working on it. That's in progress. That's an important thing. We want to know what things people are working on and what things people aren't working on. Then we want to know, has it been implemented? Have they done that Have they completed that? The next is, unfortunately, in a lot of systems, we drop it right there. Boom, it's been implemented. We're through, right? Well, no. It hasn't been tested. It hasn't been deployed. Now, how do I implement that in Jira? So what I do is when an issue is resolved, it's resolved in one of a number of resolutions, one of which is implemented. Every day, the test team is either manually testing, inspecting the automated tests, or writing automated tests for all those resolved, implemented issues. Once that's been done, it goes to resolve tested. And once we let it out to the world, it's resolve deploy. Now you say, well, how do you know that? Well, the reason I know that is because I'm using fisheye on the back end, and when people make their commits, they're putting in that Jira issue, I'm establishing a link, and I can then, every time we deploy, I can cross-reference the issues that are marked as tested with what was in the deploy and transition them to deployed. Again, it's automated. Human beings not doing this, okay? So now, one of the things is I talked about earlier was figure out what is the minimal amount of information you need in your system. I think Bonfire is incredible because Bonfire allows you to get it really down tightly and to automate the information that you're capturing. So you're able to do that. I would really recommend you look at Bonfire. It's a very powerful tool. So with these tools, you can do some incredible things, really incredible things, and it's very simple to put together. So if you're going to be a change agent in your organization, if you're going to help move your organization to embrace Agile or a lean methodology, there's going to be some roles you're going to need to play. And first off is visionary. What do I mean by visionary? You need to envision a state for your organization, for your team, and you need to communicate that to people. So what is that state? What do you want? Is it, we will deploy once a day? That might be a little aggressive right now, but hey, make that your end goal, and then figure out what is our vision for this quarter and next quarter and the quarter after. Hey, you're going to need 4 quarters to get there. What is it going to be? And lay that out and be able to give that to people. Do you have an elevator pitch? Something that grabs people by the throat and gets them excited about what you're doing. That captures that vision for them. This is hard stuff. This is not easy. But you can do it. And being a visionary is really just saying, I want to go from here to there and be able to tell people about that trip. You're describing the promised land to them. So let's go. Let's get going. Let's just hope it doesn't take 40 years. Cat herder. Creative people have their opinions about how things should be done and how it should be put together and how it would work. And you're going to have to figure out how to cajole and move these people, because I guarantee that 95% of you do not have higher or fire authority over the people you're influencing. You're going to have to influence them to go. You need to figure out what are the bowls of milk that you can lay out for people, what are the cans of tuna you can open out and lay out for them to get them to move in your direction. You need to figure out what is that sound of the can opener that will bring them running into the kitchen to move in the direction you want to go. I can't tell you that. I can just tell you you're going to have to do it. Part of it will be tied to your vision. How compelling is your vision? Is it something that people really get excited about? If it is, it's going to be a lot easier to move people in that direction. The other thing is, in this role of a cat herder, you will at times need to compromise implementation of the vision. Never have a vision that's strong enough that you don't compromise the overall vision, but maybe the implementation. You also need to figure out how you're going to be a scorekeeper. You need to be able to measure the impact of this change for the good on your organization. Did you have fewer escaped bugs? Do you have more builds per day? Is the latency from commit to customer use of code? What is that? Well, in the system I described to you, you can actually answer all of those questions. You can build that out. You'll need to do some customization in yours. But those are all metrics that you can answer. And those are metrics that your company will be very, very interested in understanding and what they mean. And once you've got the score, once you figure out how you're keeping the score, figure out how you're going to communicate it. Wall boards are great. They're fantastic. Information radiators of any kind that are out there, that are in people's faces, are fantastic. They will get you a lot. They will buy you a lot. And they will just reinforce the vision and where you're going. And, you know, each week, you know, have your own sprints for this process. Each week, something new out there on the wall board. Something new that's visible to people, that makes their job easier, that makes it more pleasant for them to work where they're at, that makes it easier to reach that why goal. So, some closing words here. I'm one of these people, if it isn't written, it doesn't happen. If I don't write it down, it doesn't happen. And so in my life, I'm a big believer in checklists. That's why I know the story of how checklists were invented. What's your checklist coming out of here? First is, why do you want to do this? Really frame that. Take the time to figure out why you're doing this in very practical terms. If you're a medical device company and your software helps doctors save lives, we want to help doctors save more lives. If you're a game company, we want kids to have more fun, okay? You know, what is it? We want to get them the products that are going to help them have more fun. You know, Zanga's right over here, so that came to mind. Second is define a minimally viable process for your organization, your team, your organization, et cetera. What issue types do you absolutely need? What are the minimal steps in your workflow? What is the minimal information you must capture? And then, as you go forward, refactor that. Ruthlessly pare it down. 6 months out, ask yourself, what can we get rid of? What can we cut? Your developers are doing it in the code. Do it in the process. And they will respect you for that. They really will. So, questions? Okay, I either did a really good job or a really bad job. Well, I'll be in the decompress over on the other side. More than willing to chat with people about this and other Agile change topics. Thank you.